Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jamuna Tiravana Chadi. Jamuna Tiravana Chadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Jamuna Tiravana Chadi. Jamuna Tiravana Chadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parividakacharya Astatara Satsasi Srimad. His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Nityalila Prabhupada Om Paramahamsa Parividakacharya Astatara Satsasi Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki. Gaura Premanandi. Text 50? Yes? Yes. Okay, Canto 4, Chapter 7, Text 50. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatho Jayamudhirayat. Text 50. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Aham Brahmacha Sarvascha Jagatakaranam Param Atmeshwara Upadrashta Swayandrig Avisheshana. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aham Brahmacha Sarvascha Jagatakaranam Param Atmeshwara Upadrashta Swayam Drig Avisheshanaha. Premananda. Shri Bhagavan, Lord Vishnu, Uvacha, said, Aham, I, Brahma, Brahma, Cha, and Sarvaha, Lord Shiva, Cha, and Jagataha, of the material manifestation. Karanam, cause. Param, supreme. Atma Ishvaraha, the super soul. Upadrashta, the witness. Swayam Drik, self-sufficient. Avisheshanaha, there is no difference. Lord Vishnu replied, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and I are the supreme cause of the material manifestation. I am the super soul, the self-sufficient witness, but impersonally there is no difference between Brahma, Shiva, and me. What's that mean? Purport. Lord Brahma was born out of the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva was born out of the body of Brahma. Lord Vishnu, therefore, is the supreme cause. In the Vedas, it is also stated that in the beginning there was only Vishnu, Narayana, there was no Brahma or Shiva. Similarly, Shukracharya confirms this, Narayana Para. Narayana, or Lord Vishnu, is the origin. And Brahma and Shiva are manifested after creation. Lord Vishnu is also Atmeshwara, the Supersoul in everyone. Under his direction, everything is prompted from within. For example, in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Tene Brahma Hrida. He first educated Lord Brahma from within, per paragraph. In Bhagavad Gita 10.2, Lord Krishna states, Aham Adir Hidevanam. Lord Vishnu, or Krishna, is the origin of all demigods, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. In another place, in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Krishna states, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Everything is generated from me. This includes all the demigods. Similarly, in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadyasya Yataha. And in the Upanishads, there is the statement, Yato va imani bhutani jayante. Everything is generated from Lord Vishnu. Everything is maintained by him. And everything is annihilated by his energy. Therefore, by their actions and reactions, the energies which come from him create the cosmic manifestations and also dissolve the whole creation. Thus, the Lord is the cause and also the effect. Whatever effect we see is the interaction of his energy. And because the energy is generated from him, he is both cause and effect. Simultaneously, everything is different from, everything is different and the same. It is said that everything is Brahman. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. In the highest vision, nothing is beyond Brahman, and therefore Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are certainly non-different from him. Very different kind of a presentation than we're accustomed to hearing, in one sense. The strength, consistent emphasis on, as in the line of Madhvacharya, the distinction between the part and the whole is more commonly presented. Even in the Chinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, the living entity is not the supreme. So here are multiple references from different Vedic sources indicating one can also point to the sameness or the non-difference. And it's quite simple, but not so simple. The simple is everything that exists comes from the same source. And therefore, that which comes from that same source and the source, they're not different because they're simply expansions or extensions, energetic or personal or however, tiny, fragmental or complete or reflections or whatever, but they're from that source. And so one can emphasize, and parts of the Vedas, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, there's parts of the Vedas that emphasize the oneness feature. So a part of the totality of everything, there's Brahma and Shiva. The circumstance is Lord Vishnu is addressing Daksha. And Daksha has some misapprehension about Lord Shiva in particular. And Lord Vishnu is setting the record straight. He, Lord Shiva, as well as Brahma, yes, they're different, but one must also say non-different. In the same way, from the source comes everything, and part of everything that comes from the source is source-like. So it's not identical with because Shiva and Brahma are not the source, but they're identical with the source because they're expansions of that source. Energy is not different than the energetic, although simultaneously different. So that's Lord Chaitanya's teachings, and Lord Chaitanya's teachings are Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So if you want to understand Vedanta Sutra properly, read the commentary by the author, and the commentary by the author is stating what Lord Chaitanya states. Oneness and difference simultaneously. So that's what this verse is doing. I'll read the verse again. When you first hear the verse, it's like, what? This isn't the Bhagavatam. Brahma, Lord Shiva, and I are the supreme cause. Supreme cause of the cosmic manifestation, material manifestation. I am the super soul, the self-sufficient witness, but impersonally, there's no difference between Brahma, Lord Shiva, and me. This is the emphasis of the non-difference. Impersonally, you can have different. I don't see the Sanskrit word impersonally in the word for word. Aniveshanaha. There's no difference. There's difference. And there's no difference. Lord Shiva is being discriminated against by Daksha out of pride. And Lord Vishnu is coming to set the record straight. Don't do it like this. We're non-different. You want to do yagyas and propitiate Vishnu through the process of fire. Okay. But don't discriminate against Lord Shiva because there's a oneness relationship between Lord Shiva, Brahma, and me. So your offense to Lord Shiva is an offense to me. So please don't do that. But he didn't quite say it like that. He just is the philosophical background. There's a basis for saying like that. The basis for being respectful. Even there's difference. I'm pondering a situation that came to my attention late last night. And there's somebody somewhere that wants to have Rath Yatra because he's not a trained Vaishnava, and he wants at the Rath Yatra to have a well-educated speaker who's a non-Vaishnava speak at Rath Yatra. And you know what he's going to say. And the devotees know this person because the fellow came at the previous year, and they have objection. And the person who wants to invite the individual doesn't have the same set of priorities. He doesn't have the same compass. He doesn't have the same true north picture of things. So he's, it's a how do you resolve that one? Houdini. You have to be a magician. No, have your own Rath Yatra and invite gobbledygook peace speakers and be happy. But we as Vaishnavas, we're not going to have gobbledygook speakers at Rath Yatra. This is Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. So the emphasis there is the difference or the distinction or the special honor. How do we make special honor while acknowledging there's also a non-difference feature? And then speakers want to speak a non-difference feature while we speak a difference feature. In the hearts of some, it's a problem. In the hearts of devotees, it's a problem to have an impersonalist be a guest speaker at the Rath Yatra. Can't do it. So, my guess is these two individuals are going to have to go their separate way. Okay? And you have Rath Yatra, you invite gobbledygook speakers and be happy. And we're going to have a Rath Yatra that has Vaishnava speakers, not necessarily only ISKCON, but Vaishnava speakers and Haribol. We're going our separate way. Because it seems, it's a head-on collision. And both feel justified with their position. Fortunately, Lord Vishnu can settle the problem. He just ducks his head. Because you're offending Lord Shiva, and you can't do that. How do you peacefully coexist when they're diametrically opposing foundational conceptions? You humble persuasion, when that fails, then what do? If you have a Sudarshan chakra, you use it. Or you may, this is hopeless, and shrug your shoulders and depart. You see, there are situations where that happens. Vidura did like that, and there's other situations just like it's a hopeless case. So I'm not just take shelter of Krishna and purify myself because this person or this circumstance is intractable. And and create the positive alternative. And those persons that want a positive alternative, they can take shelter. And those that want to do like Duryodhana wanted to do, or what Daksha wanted to do, and there's consequences. Don't stand up in opposition to Lord Vishnu, please. You'll have a problem. It is a problem. The consequences are there. But fortunately, all living entities in the material world in the Kali Yuga are born in ignorance. There are some, by past activities, they're more devotionally inclined. There are certainly young persons in devotee families or otherwise that have a very natural bhakti disposition. And that natural bhakti disposition has something to do with their previous life or lives. A very strong devotional inclination. But just sticking to the topic here. Lord Vishnu is giving an opportunity to Daksha to stop being so nasty. And, he hasn't heed the advice. So there's consequences. So for those who are followers of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not motivation by threat. If you don't get it, you're going to get your head chopped. But it's an education to understand properly what's what. So the series of verses that Prabhupada has presented in the purport, they're quite consistent. The language is different. The type of reference source is different. That's just fine. But they all point to the same thing. There's one source. And that which comes from the source has its connection with the source. And that's the basis of the non-difference. So please respect, while recognizing that which comes from the source is not the source. It's an emanation from. Like, so many other purports where Prabhupada would say, because everything comes from the Supreme, it's not that everything is the Supreme. The classic Daridra Narayan. So everything that comes from the Supreme is the Supreme. And therefore, they're poor people, so they're also Narayan. The energy, that which comes from the source is the source. Sorry, that's not true. There's a relationship, and because of that relationship, they're to be respected on the basis of that relationship and interacted with according to that relationship. But to make absolutely non-different the two, it's foolish. It's fundamentally foolish. And when people say it and they have a position, people go, "Wow, there's a Narayan." Mana Seva, Bhagavan Seva. Serve mankind, and thereby you serve Bhagavan, because they're Bhagavan, or the extensions of Bhagavan. So you're serving Bhagavan by feeding the poor, and opening hospitals and doing philanthropy. Twisting Paratattva is not a new program. Just yesterday, I was hearing Srila Prabhupada, a recorded lecture, where Prabhupada was describing descendants coming from the original personalities of the universe, and within a certain period of time, some of those descendants became the forefathers of Greece, and thus he didn't dwell on it and go into details, but Greece, at some point in time, Greek philosophers were very much respected. I can't remember what it was, but in the course of my travels, I met a young congregation member, and he was really fascinated with Greek philosophy, the Greek philosophers. He found a lot of truth in what the Greek philosophers say, but it's truth that's over some time and degeneration from the influence of the transformation of the ages. There's truth, but it's not paratattva. It's missing. And I didn't have a discussion with this young fellow, but his mom was really proud of her son, who was very, he was very philosophical, very keen, and knew this Greek philosopher and that one, what they said, and learned young fellow. And that was interesting. Prabhupada saying that the origin of it is a Vedic source. Knowledge is Veda. And if there's a little slice of Veda truth, then you get some ism. And then how does that ism fit into the totality picture? That's the Vedas. And so one can emphasize this, or one can emphasize that, or the other thing, and not get the big picture. And what to speak of the slice that's now a distorted slice through time and the influence of the age of Kali. So it's. I mentioned yesterday, I'll just repeat, there was something very, very fortunate that our Acharya, the 6 Goswamis had Jiva Goswami amongst them. And their original manuscripts are preserved. Compliments of Jiva Goswami. Because, leaves are going to deteriorate over time. And who knows what was the original Mahabharata or the original Ramayana or the original anything. So it was preserved to some degree, at least, through sound. Qualified brahmanas would recite over and 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 over. And, of course, time and defects of conditioned soul, some discrepancies would creep in, but that's how the Vedas were preserved over time, through sound and qualified teachers teaching qualified students and so forth over generations. But the original teachings, and this is Kali Yuga advanced, and so we're dependent upon something in writing for obvious reasons. Memories are poor, we can't remember what we heard. So we need it in writing. Prabhupada's statement. If you want to remember something, write it down. Which he did. And then the written was carried on over and is still being carried on, etc. Anyway. So therefore, for us, the propagation of paratattva, transcendental knowledge, is through literature. And therefore, very dramatic emphasis on literature. Of course, in Prabhupada's teachings, I'm going a little bit off the main topic of the purport here, but the chanting of within the holy name is everything, so just chant Hare Krishna. And for those who are so inclined, there's volumes of books. And read the books and you have a whole lifetime of reading books, along with chanting, so that you can get clarity. But it's preserved in a written form, and now preserved in a digital form besides the written and printed form. So we at least can know what Prabhupada said, what Prabhupada wrote in its preserved form. And cross generations that can continue. It will continue. So back to the purport. Lord Vishnu is giving Daksha an opportunity to straighten up and don't be offensive. But he's got this thing, Shiva has, Daksha has this thing about Shiva because it's his daughter. And look at this fellow who's married to my daughter, this and that and the other and the other and the other. Yuck. So his offensive mentality is overwhelming him. Big problem. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Maharaj, it's always a consistent experience to observe how Krishna, or in this case, his form is Vishnu, Narayana, approaches a situation. And in this situation, as soon as he arrives in his resplendent form, all of these personalities, great personalities, offer him prayer after prayer after prayer after prayer. Very strong glorification. He doesn't necessarily respond to any of that. And in very gentle way, I might say, he offers correction to Daksha. Because he didn't say, you should not disrespect Shiva. He simply said, we are equal. So it's so instructive and edifying to see how the Supreme Lord approaches these kind of delicate situations.
How the Supreme Lord does what?
Sorry, I missed that. She was talking.
Yeah. How the Supreme Lord does what? It's nice to note how the Supreme Lord does what?
Approaches such delicate situations.
Ah, okay. I agree. Within a passage of the Bhagavatam, there's a lesson, and there's lessons within the lesson, and there's lessons within those lessons. And it's certainly possible, it goes on, that one picks up a thread, and then that's it. And they go with the thread, but without the lessons within those lessons. So it takes purity and culture to understand and then conduct oneself according to the layers of lessons. Yes.
Maharaj, you were saying that Daksha had a misapprehension about Shiva, and I'm noticing this parallel in Shiva's not responding to Daksha's blaspheming him in the assembly, simply walking out. And similarly, there were some misapprehensions about Jiva Goswami we were expressing in the class yesterday evening. And again, Jiva Goswami didn't budge from his integrity or defend himself. In both of these cases, these personalities simply depended on the Lord and let the chips fall and have faith in whether they're exonerated or they're not exonerated, they're fixed in their relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that was very, very beautiful to notice how the Supreme Lord comes through and restores the honor of his devotees, whether they choose to stand up for themselves or not. And there's just such refinement in how the devotees deal with these situations.
That restoring may not be immediate. The restoring may be over time. And that's the Lord's plan, and we honor His plan because it's His plan. And something else might have not been received so well, or whatever the reason why it's not immediate, but the preserver preserves. Upadrashta Anumanta. So that's the emphasis here. Upadrashta, he sees everything. Super Soul, Lord Vishnu, sees everything. And so therefore, part of his seeing everything is to gently offer some correction, which isn't heeded. So there's consequences. Yeah, how a qualified person, Supreme Lord or any other one else, conducts themselves in a situation that deserves correction, it's instructive to view. It can help us to understand, at least some of the options that we may have when we're in some similar situation, or the thoughtfulness of what's the outcome going to be, rather than impulsively being very strong in some area or another area. Bringing about harmony, bringing about an atmosphere that makes Krishna consciousness conducive. Not too difficult, not easy, and it's difficult. Someone else. You'll have something else?
Maharaj, noticing how in different situations where a devotee or personality may be out of line, and how they're corrected by the Supreme Lord or by devotees. Like last visit of yours, you were describing how Rupa Kaviraj was ousted from the assembly of Vaishnavas because he was offensive to
Hemalata Thakurani and Gangamata Goswamini, both. It's offensive to both.
And here Daksha has been extremely offensive, and of course he gets a very severe reaction. And then Lord Vishnu is, with his speech, very gently correcting him. So it's very interesting to notice the variety that the Supreme Lord uses in correcting.
Yeah. You gotta speak a little louder. Louder.
So I keep thinking this Daksha is.
I can't hear you.
Daksha is such an exalted person.
Hold the microphone closer to the speaking part of your body.
Okay.
Thank you.
Daksha is an exalted personality, the Prajapati. How he missed knowledge of Lord Shiva's position totally. That is one. I mean, he doesn't have any awareness of Lord Shiva's position and glories.
Zero audibility. You heard what she said.
Maharaj is asking that Daksha, being such an exalted personality, how is it that he doesn't understand a glimmer of Lord Shiva's qualities and greatness? Like, that's bewildering for her.
And, so how is it that Daksha couldn't understand? That's the question. He got beans in his ears. She likes that answer. He can't hear. It's envy. And anything that's truth bounces because how strong is his envy and pride. And someone that is superior to him he can't tolerate it because of his envy and pride. And then he sees by external this and external that, and evaluate, I'm justified having the view. So the contamination was substantial, although his qualification was substantial. On material side, but it was blocked. The power of his qualification was blocked. Okay. That's it. Yes, Varsana. Premananda, did Subal finish his work with the sound system?
Yes.
Besides the humming sound, I hear what people are saying. It's not fixed yet.
No.
Okay. He's going to be here today, right?
We were hoping that it will be done by the time the
Yeah, right. I heard that for a month.
I think the person was
Let's see what happens. It's going to be a struggle. Varsana?
I just have a comment. When you were speaking about how Lord Vishnu was, in one sense, instilling faith in Daksha about Lord Shiva's position, for some reason I was thinking of the hierarchy in our own ISKCON society, the spiritual.
You're thinking of what?
The hierarchy, the spiritual and managerial.
Spiritual and
managerial hierarchy.
Hierarchy. Okay.
The reason I had a memory, when we were students, you would once or twice you've asked us, if we would come to you with a certain question, you would ask us, have you consulted with Jagadananda Prabhu? Like, what did he say? Things like that. So I was thinking.
You have a good memory. That was a few years ago. I don't remember.
Long time ago. My hair
a long time ago.
But I see the same pattern, in one sense, the oneness is an objective, like in this case, in the community, but the difference is certainly there. Just like, the oneness in serving Srila Prabhupada's mission, be it receiving instructions from you or from our mentor, but the difference in position is certainly there. That's what came to my mind.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. It is when you got real excited and you started speaking really fast and I couldn't follow everything. But I'm sure it was nice. It's going to be an interesting festival of perspiration. Okay. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.